On a freezing Christmas Eve in a mountain canyon, a little girl stands perfectly still, clutching a backpack and a promise. A wealthy stranger stops thinking he's rescuing her, only to discover she isn't lost. She's waiting, and one moment of kindness will change a road, a family, and him forever. Bridger Canyon disappeared into white. Snow didn't fall, it attacked, slicing sideways across the road, erasing the edges of the world. Calder Rowe tightened his grip on the steering wheel as his truck pushed forward, headlights carving two narrow tunnels through the storm. No music, no calls, just the low growl of the engine and the wind howling off the canyon walls. Christmas Eve meant nothing out here. Calder had built his fortune hauling freight through weather other drivers avoided. Storms paid well. They always had. Contracts were met, deadlines, kept loads delivered. Success came in numbers, revenue routes, miles survived. But warmth had never followed. Silence filled the cab the way it always did on nights like this. It carried memory. Years ago, another winter, another road. A call he hadn't answered because he was almost there. He exhaled slowly, fogging the windshield. He didn't revisit that night often. He didn't need to. The canyon knew it already. Just drive, he muttered. Snow buried the shoulder piling high where plows had passed earlier. Calder adjusted his speed, reading the road by instinct more than sight. Mile markers slid past like ghosts. Then something broke the pattern. A shape. Too still. Too small. Calder's heart hit hard against his ribs. His foot eased off the gas as his eyes strained through the whiteout. The shape moved one careful step, then another. A child. Standing at the turnout, half buried in snow, as if the storm had grown tired of trying to move her. Calder flicked on his hazard lights. The truck slowed, tires crunching into packed drifts, and came to a stop several yards away. For a long second, he didn't open the door. The wind screamed. Snow battered the hood, and the little girl stood there waiting. Calder stepped out slowly, boots sinking into the snow. Cold punched through his coat, instantly sharp and breath-stealing. He raised his hands, palms open, making sure he stayed where he was. "Hey," he called gently, voice steady despite the wind. "I'm not going to come closer." The girl didn't run. She didn't wave or cry or reach out. She simply adjusted her stance, planting her boots more firmly, like someone determined not to be moved. Up close, Calder could see she was small 6, maybe. Her coat was thin but clean, zipped all the way up. A knitted hat sat crooked on her head, snow collecting along the seams. She held a worn backpack tight against her chest, one arm wrapped around it like it was something alive. A handmade doll dangled from one strap, its stitched smile faded with age. "What's your name?" Calder asked. The girl studied him, eyes sharp and serious, measuring the distance, the truck, the lights. Finally, she spoke. "Sonny," she said. Her voice was soft, but certain. "Please don't touch my bag." "I won't," Calder replied immediately. "I promise." The wind surged, nearly pushing her sideways. Calder crouched where he stood, lowering himself so he wouldn't tower over her. "You're doing a good job staying still," he said. "But it's really cold. Would you like to sit in my truck where it's warm? The door will stay unlocked." Sonny hesitated. Her fingers tightened on the backpack straps. "I'm waiting," she said. "For who?" Calder asked carefully. "My mom?" Sonny glanced down the road, then back at him. "She always comes back." There was no panic in her voice, only faith. "And if it takes a while?" Calder asked. Sonny nodded once, as if repeating a rule she knew by heart. "If I wait long enough," she said, "she'll find me." Calder felt the words settle deep in his chest, heavier than the snow piling at his feet. He didn't argue. He didn't rush. Instead, he reached into the truck and placed a thermal blanket on the ground between them, then stepped back. "This is just to keep you warm," he said. "You can pick it up yourself?" Sonny watched him carefully, then moved forward, scooping up the blanket and wrapping it around her shoulders without ever setting the backpack down. The doll bumped gently against her arm. "Thank you," she said. Calder nodded. "You're welcome." They stood like that for a moment, two figures suspended in the storm, neither crossing the invisible line Sunny had drawn. "What's in the bag?" Calder asked, not out of curiosity but conversation. Sunny glanced down at it. "Important things." He smiled faintly. "That makes sense." She shifted her weight. "A blue tow truck stopped earlier," she added, as if sharing a detail she'd been holding on to. "The man said he'd be back too." Calder's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Did he come back?" Sunny shook her head. "Not yet, but Mom will." Calder glanced at the road, then back at her. "How about this?" he said. "You wait in the warm truck where you can still see the road. I'll stay right here. We'll watch together." Sunny considered this carefully. Finally, she nodded. Calder opened the passenger door and stepped back. Warm air spilled into the night. Sunny climbed in on her own, settling onto the seat with the backpack still in her lap, eyes fixed forward through the windshield. Calder closed the door gently. Then he picked up his radio. "This is Calder Row," he said evenly. "I found a child waiting alone near mile marker 18 in Bridger Canyon. She's safe, calm, and warm, requesting guidance." Static crackled. Then a voice answered, and the waiting began to change. The radio crackled once, twice, then steadied. "Copy that, Mr. Rowe," a calm female voice said. "This is Sheriff Mara Keene. Weather's closing the south bridges. Stay where you are for now. Keep the child warm. Help is already moving." Calder exhaled slowly. "Understood." He glanced through the windshield. Sunny sat perfectly still in the passenger seat, blanket tucked around her shoulders, backpack upright on her lap, like a rule she refused to break. Her eyes tracked every pair of headlights that ghosted through the snow far down the canyon. Sunny Calder said gently, making sure she could hear every word. "The sheriff knows where you are. That means you're not waiting alone anymore." She nodded, absorbing the sentence carefully. "Can I keep watching?" she asked. "Of course," he said. "We'll watch together." Calder kept his hands visible as he adjusted the heater, turning it just warm enough to fog the windows slightly. He spoke out loud as he did, narrating every movement not for himself, but for her. "I'm going to call for medical support too," he added, "just to make sure you're okay. That doesn't mean anything bad." Sunny's fingers tightened briefly on the straps. "They won't take me away, right?" The question landed softly, but it carried weight. "No," Calder said without hesitation. "No one is taking you anywhere without explaining it first. And your mom will be part of every decision." Sunny looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. Outside, the wind battered the truck, rocking it gently. Snow hissed across the glass. Sunny leaned forward slightly. "If you see a blue tow truck," she said quietly, "you don't have to stop. Mom said strangers mean well, but promises matter more." Calder's throat tightened. "Your mom sounds very smart," he said. Sunny's lips curved into the smallest smile. "She is." The radio chimed again. "Roe, this is Keene," the sheriff said. "Road conditions are deteriorating fast. I want you to head north to Bozeman ER. I'll notify staff. Do not take detours. Do not stop for anyone on the road." Calder repeated the instructions slowly, deliberately, like a checklist meant to anchor the moment. North to the hospital. No detours. No stops. Sunny listened closely, her eyes lifting from the road to his reflection in the side mirror. "That means we're moving?" she asked. "Yes," Calder said. "But we're still waiting just somewhere warmer." She considered this, then nodded. "Okay." The truck eased back onto the road, tires biting into fresh snow. The canyon narrowed, rock walls looming like dark sentinels on either side. The world beyond the headlights vanished completely. Sunny shifted in her seat. "Mom hates the cold," she said suddenly. "She says it makes everything louder." Calder glanced at her. "She's not wrong." Sunny reached into her backpack and carefully pulled out a folded paper. A diner receipt, edges worn thin. Calder didn't touch it. "That's her name," Sunny said, smoothing it with her thumb. "Noelle Hart." Calder committed it to memory instantly. "When did you last see her?" he asked. "Before dark," Sunny replied. Her phone stopped working. "She said to wait where cars could see me. She said she'd come back." The certainty in her voice felt practiced, like a promise repeated enough times to hold its shape. The radio crackled once more. "ER is ready for you," Sheriff Keene said. "You're doing good, Calder." Sunny heard it. "They know me," she whispered. "They do now," Calder said. "That's how help works." The emergency room doors slid open with a soft hiss, spilling bright white light into the storm. Warmth rushed over them all at once, sharp and overwhelming. Sunny flinched, blinking, as the noise and color replaced the quiet of the canyon. Calder moved slowly, letting the nurses take the lead. "Hi, Sunny," one of them said, kneeling to eye level. "I'm Liz. We're just going to make you cozy, okay?" Sunny nodded, clutching her backpack until the nurse paused and asked, "May I?" Sunny hesitated, then gently placed the bag on the chair beside her, never letting it out of sight. Blankets followed. Warm packs. A small paper cup of cocoa held carefully between her hands. Color crept back into her cheeks, little by little. Calder stood off to the side, present but not looming. A pediatric doctor introduced herself. "You did exactly the right thing tonight," she told Sunny. "Waiting where you could be seen. Staying calm." Sunny absorbed the words like they mattered. Then a man with a clipboard approached, kind eyes, tired smile. "I'm Eli Brooks," he said. "I help families on nights like this." Sunny stiffened slightly. Eli noticed immediately and lowered his voice. "Nothing changes without explanations," he said. "And nothing happens without grown-ups listening." Sunny glanced at Calder. "I'll stay," Calder said quietly, "as long as that helps." Eli nodded. "Good." Outside, snow continued to fall, relentless and uncaring. Inside, something else began to take shape, fragile, careful, and warm, but somewhere beyond the hospital walls a story was already being told. And it wasn't the right one. Eli Brooks flipped a page on his clipboard, then another. His brow creased, not with suspicion, but with the quiet weight of logistics. "Holiday placements are full," he said gently. "Weather hasn't helped. Normally Sunny would stay here overnight." Sunny's shoulders stiffened. Not panic, not fear, just resistance. "I don't want to stay alone," she said, voice small but steady. Calder felt something old tighten in his chest. He waited until Eli finished speaking, then said carefully, "Is there a lawful option where she isn't alone?" Eli looked up, surprised. "Possibly. Temporary emergency placement. One night. Wellness check in the morning. Cameras, clear boundaries." Sheriff Marrakeen stepped closer, snow still clinging to her coat. She studied Calder for a long moment. Not his wealth, not his house, but his posture. Still. Open. Patient. "Are you offering?" she asked. "Yes," Calder replied. "If it's appropriate, if it's supervised, if Sunny agrees." Every condition mattered. Sunny looked between the adults. "Just tonight?" she asked. "Just tonight," Calder said. "Until the storm breaks." She nodded once. Paperwork followed, slow, deliberate. Every signature explained. Every line read out loud. Sunny sat on the edge of the chair, backpack on her knees, listening to words she didn't fully understand, but recognized as important. Before they left, Sunny tugged lightly at Calder's sleeve. "You'll keep your promise, right?" Calder met her eyes. "I don't make promises I can't keep." She seemed satisfied with that. As they stepped back into the night, the storm had softened, still fierce but no longer screaming. The truck doors closed with a reassuring thud. Sunny buckled herself in. "I'm still waiting," she said quietly. Calder nodded. "You can wait somewhere warm." The road carried them away from the hospital lights toward a house too large and too quiet, about to learn how to hold something fragile. Calder's home rose out of the snow like a modern fortress, glass, steel, clean lines softened by drifting white. Security lights swept the driveway as the gates opened automatically. Sunny stared. "It's big," she said. "It doesn't all count," Calder replied. "We'll just use one room." Inside, the air was still, too still. Sunny paused in the entryway, backpack hugged tight as if the house itself might move if she let go. Calder crouched beside her. "You decide where you're comfortable." She pointed down the hall. "There, close to the door." "Done." He showed her the guest room, nothing fancy, just clean and warm. He set a small nightlight on the dresser and angled a hallway camera feed where she could see it. "No blind spots," he explained. "If someone comes near the house, we'll know." Sunny studied the screen, breathing slowing by degrees. She slipped off her boots, lined them up neatly, then sat on the edge of the bed with the backpack still strapped across her chest. "I sleep here," she said, pointing to the floor by the door. Calder opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. "Okay," he said simply. "I'll be right here." He unfolded a small cot and placed it a few feet away, not close enough to crowd, not far enough to disappear. Snow ticked against the windows. The house creaked softly as the storm pressed in. Sunny lay down, eyes open, watching the green glow of the monitor. "If I sleep," she whispered, "she might come back while I'm not looking." Calder sat on the floor back against the bed. "If she comes back," he said gently, "we'll know together." Minutes passed. Then, "Do you leave?" Sunny asked suddenly. "Sometimes," Calder answered honestly. "But not tonight." Her grip on the backpack loosened just a little. Downstairs, Calder's phone buzzed. A notification, a video, and a headline that made his stomach drop. Calder watched the video once. Only once. A man stood beside a blue tow truck, phone held just right, voice practiced and calm. Snow fell lightly behind him, enough to look dramatic, not enough to tell the truth. "I found a little girl abandoned in the canyon," the man said. "I tried to help. Some people just don't deserve kids." Comments poured in beneath it, fast, furious, absolute. Calder locked his phone and slid it into his pocket. Upstairs, Sunny shifted. "Someone's talking loud," she murmured, half asleep. Calder climbed the steps quietly and knelt beside her. "There's a story going around," he said carefully. "But stories aren't always true." Sunny opened her eyes. "About my mom." He didn't lie. "Yes." Her face didn't crumple. It went still. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. The question hit harder than the storm ever could. "No," Calder said firmly, "not even a little." She looked at the ceiling. "I waited. I waited like she said, and that was right," Calder replied. "Waiting isn't a test. It's something grown-ups should never leave a child to do alone." Sunny swallowed. "What if I didn't wait long enough?" Calder felt his chest tighten, the old memory stirring sharp and unwelcome. "We're not measuring time tonight," he said. "We're measuring care, and you are surrounded by it." Downstairs, his phone buzzed again. Sheriff Keene's name lit the screen. "The video's gaining traction," she said quietly. "But we're pulling records, cameras, timelines. Truth moves slower, but it moves." Calder looked back at Sunny, who was watching him closely. "They're saying things," she whispered. "They're learning things," he corrected. "And tomorrow they'll learn the right ones." Sunny nodded, though doubt flickered behind her eyes. Outside, snow kept falling. Inside, waiting took on a new meaning. And the night wasn't finished yet. Morning arrived without color. Gray light filtered through the snow-heavy clouds, pressing softly against the windows of Calder's house. The storm had eased, but the silence it left behind felt heavier than the wind ever had. Sunny woke before anyone else. She sat upright on the bed, backpack still across her chest, eyes fixed on the hallway camera feed. Nothing moved. No doors opened. No cars appeared on the screen. The world outside remained paused. Calder stirred on the cot, careful not to startle her. "Good morning," he said quietly. Sunny nodded. "It's still today," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Calder replied. "It is." She slid off the bed and padded toward the window, peering through the glass at the long driveway buried in white. Her reflection stared back at her small, bundled patient. "Do you think people are still watching the video?" she asked. Calder didn't dodge the truth. Some are. Sunny absorbed that. Then she asked the question that changed the room. "What if they believe it?" she said softly. "What if they think my mom didn't come back because of me?" Calder moved closer, then stopped letting her choose the distance. He knelt so his eyes were level with hers. "Sunny," he said carefully, "adults don't disappear because of children. They disappear because of storms, broken phones, closed roads. None of that belongs to you." She pressed her lips together. "But I was waiting." And that Calder said was brave. But it was also something no kid should have to do alone. Sunny's gaze dropped to the floor. What if I didn't wait long enough? The old ache surged in Calder's chest, sharp, familiar. He took a breath. "We're not counting minutes," he said. "We're counting care. And right now you are surrounded by it." Downstairs his phone buzzed. "Sheriff Mara Keene." "We found a warming station check-in," she said. "Female. Name matches Noelle Hart. Delayed transport due to the storm. We're confirming." Calder closed his eyes briefly. "Thank you." Sunny watched his face closely. "Is that good news?" "It's hopeful news," Calder said. "And hope is allowed." Sunny nodded once, gripping the straps of her backpack, not tighter, not looser. Just enough. Waiting, it seemed, was beginning to change. By mid-morning, Calder's kitchen had become quiet headquarters. A laptop glowed on the counter, maps layered with weather alerts and road closures. Calder moved with practiced calm, making calls that mattered: county transit winter response teams, a nonprofit shelter network. No panic, no drama, just precision. Sunny sat at the table, coloring with a dull red pencil she'd found in a drawer. She drew roads, always roads, thin lines, swallowed by white. Sheriff Keene called back. "We confirmed it," she said. Noelle Hart checked into a warming station around midnight. Phone battery died. She tried to get back once the roads reopened, but the shuttles were rerouted. Calder leaned against the counter, relief rushing in so hard it made his knees weak. "She's alive." "Yes," Keene replied. "Cold, shaken, but safe." Sunny looked up at his expression and knew. "My mom?" she asked. Calder crossed the room and knelt beside her chair. They found her. Sunny froze. For a heartbeat, Calder worried she hadn't heard him. Then her breath came out in a rush. "She didn't leave," Sunny whispered. "No," Calder said. "She didn't." Sunny pressed both hands flat on the table, grounding herself. "I waited," she said again, but this time the words sounded different, lighter. "I waited, like she said." Keene continued. "We're bringing her to Bozeman ER now. There's still the matter of the video. We'll address it officially." Calder nodded. "We'll be there." At the hospital, the hallway buzzed with quiet urgency. Nurses passed. A doctor reviewed a chart. Then a woman appeared at the far end, wrapped in a borrowed jacket, hair damp from melted snow eyes, searching the crowd like she was afraid to blink. Sunny stood. "Mom," she said. Noelle Hart dropped to her knees before Sunny could run. She opened her arms, trembling. Sunny stepped forward and folded into them, backpack finally slipping from her shoulders to the floor. "I waited," Sunny whispered into her mother's jacket. "I waited like you said." Noelle held her, rocking gently. "You did everything right," she said, voice breaking. "Everything." Calder stood back, throat tight, as the space between fear and truth finally closed. But outside the hospital walls, the wrong story was still spreading, and truth still had work to do. The relief didn't erase the reality. Eli Brooks returned with a folder tucked under his arm, expression calm but focused. "I'm glad she's here," he said, nodding toward Noelle. "Now we close the loop properly." Noelle stiffened. "Are they going to take her?" she asked, fear slipping into her voice despite everything. "No," Eli said immediately. "This is about protection, not punishment." Sheriff Keene joined them, laying out the steps with practiced clarity. "There's a public allegation circulating. We counter it with facts, official statements, documentation, a short hearing to put this to bed." Sunny listened from Noelle's side, fingers laced tightly with her mother's. "Will people stop being mad?" she asked. "They will learn," Keene said, "and learning changes things." Calder offered what he could not influence, not pressure. Evidence. "I can pull dashcam footage from fleet partners who drove through the canyon last night," he said. "Timestamps, weather conditions, visibility." Keene nodded. "That helps." A local journalist, Paige Larkin, waited just outside the room. She didn't push in. She didn't shove a microphone forward. She asked permission. "I'll publish what can be verified," Paige said. "Nothing else." Noelle swallowed. "Please," she said. "I don't want Sunny turned into a headline." Paige nodded. "Then she won't be." Sunny tugged gently on Calder's sleeve. "Are we still waiting?" Calder smiled softly. "A little, but this time we're waiting together." Outside, snow drifted lazily from the sky, no longer sharp or threatening. The storm had spent itself. Inside, paperwork moved from clipboard to folder. Timelines aligned, names found their places, and slowly, quietly, the truth began to catch up. By afternoon, the storm had loosened its grip, but the town hadn't. At Bozeman ER, the fluorescent lights felt too bright, like the building itself refused to let anyone hide. Sunny sat on the edge of Noelle's hospital bed, swinging her feet slowly, cocoa cup cooling between her hands. She didn't look frightened. She looked watchful, like she was learning a new kind of waiting. Calder stood near the window, phone in hand, watching a snowfall that had gone from violent to gentle. Outside, the world looked peaceful. Online, it was anything but. Paige Larkin texted one line, "The video is still climbing. Comments are ugly. I'm holding until I have proof." Calder typed back, "You'll have it. Soon." Sheriff Mara Keene arrived with a thin stack of papers and a thicker calm. "I want you both to hear the plan," she said to Noelle and Sunny. "No surprises, no confusion. No one talks over you." Noelle's hands trembled slightly as she wrapped them around the edge of her blanket. "I didn't leave her," she said, voice hoarse from a night spent explaining herself to strangers. "We know," Keene replied, "and soon everyone else will too." Eli Brooks stood beside the sheriff, flipping open a folder. "We're going to document what happened like a story that can't be edited," he said. "A timeline. Times, places, road closures, your shelter, check-in, transportation, reroutes, and witnesses." "Witnesses," Noelle whispered. Calder lifted his phone. "Dashcam footage," he said. "My fleet partners, plus a Winter Road Association contact. They've agreed to share data with law enforcement. GPS pings timestamps. Not opinions, not drama, just reality." Sunny looked up. "Does reality win?" she asked. The question was so small and so heavy that the room seemed to tilt around it. Keene crouched near her. "Reality is slow," she said gently, "but it's strong, and today it has people who won't let go of it." A nurse stepped in with discharge paperwork for Noelle. The doctor's voice remained soft, clinical kind. "You're stable. We'd like you to rest tonight." Stress makes the body louder. Noelle nodded, eyes flicking to Sunny. "She can stay with me, of course," the doctor replied. "She's your child?" The simplicity of that sentence almost made Noelle cry. In the hallway, a television mounted above the waiting room played a short clip on mute. Calder recognized the frame immediately. Wes Dalton in a winter beanie blue tow truck behind him, a perfectly framed shot. A Chiron scrolled beneath local viral video sparks questions. Calder turned away before Sonny could see. But Sonny had already noticed the movement, the slight shift in adults when a screen changed. Her gaze moved from the TV to Calder's face, then to her mother's, then to Sheriff Keene's. She didn't ask what the clip said. She asked something else instead. "Am I in trouble?" she whispered. Noelle's breath caught. Calder knelt careful to keep his voice low and steady. "No," he said. "You're not in trouble. Adults are just being noisy when they don't understand." Sonny considered that. "Then we help them understand," she said like it was the most logical thing in the world. Keene stood. "Exactly," she said. "And we do it the right way." That evening, Calder's kitchen became a war room again. Only this time it wasn't about storms on highways. It was about protecting a child from the chaos of strangers' assumptions. A laptop chimed as footage arrived in encrypted links. Calder didn't play anything aloud. He scanned timestamps, plate angles, and weather overlays. He forwarded everything to Keene and Eli. Keene called once. "Good, this is clean." Eli called after that. "There will be a brief hearing tomorrow. It's not a trial. It's a clarification, a closure." Noelle swallowed. "Do I have to speak only if you want to?" Eli said. "Your lawyer can speak for you. Your documentation speaks loudly, and Sonny can share a statement through an advocate only if you and she both agree." Sonny, sitting at the table drawing a green box with a bright sign above it, looked up when she heard her name. "A statement?" she asked. Eli smiled softly. "Just a few sentences. Your truth, in your own words. No pressure." Sonny's pencil paused. Then she nodded once. "I can do that," she said. Calder's chest tightened, not from fear, but from a sudden, unexpected kind of respect. The night ended without sirens, without shouting, without violence. Just quiet decisions, lawful steps, and a child learning that being seen could be a form of safety. And outside, the snow kept falling gentle now, like the world was trying to start over. The Gallatin County Courthouse smelled like wet wool and old paper. Boots squeaked on tiled floors. Coats dripped melted snow into small puddles no one bothered to wipe up. It wasn't a packed courtroom, this wasn't a spectacle on paper, but the air still carried the weight of watching. Because people had watched online, and now they had come to watch in person. Noelle held Sonny's hand, fingers laced tight but gentle. Sonny wore her warm jacket, pink and thick hood resting against her shoulders. She wasn't dressed to look pitiful. She was dressed to look protected. Calder walked a step behind them, not leading, not claiming. Just present as a witness and support. Sheriff Keene moved beside the aisle, steady as a metronome. Eli Brooks checked in quietly, making sure Sonny knew where the advocate would sit, where the exits were, where she could step out if she needed to. "Do I have to talk?" Sonny asked in a whisper. "Only if you want to," the advocate replied. "And if you do, you won't be alone." Sonny nodded, absorbing the phrase like a new rule, not alone. At the far end of the room, Wes Dalton sat with his attorney. He looked ordinary in a way that almost felt dangerous. Clean jacket, practiced expression, hands folded like a man who believed his story deserved applause. He glanced up, eyes skimming across the room until they landed on Sonny. His face brightened like a camera light turning on. He didn't wave. He didn't sneer. He simply gave a small, polished nod like he was still performing. Calder felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his posture calm. Sheriff Keene caught his glance and gave him a subtle look. Not today. Not like that. The judge entered, Honorable Renee Whitaker, glasses low on her nose, expression unreadable but not unkind. Everyone stood, then sat. The courtroom settled into a quieter kind of tension, the kind that didn't scream but still pressed on your lungs. Wes's attorney spoke first, voice smooth as varnish. "My client acted in good faith," she said. "A child was seen alone during severe weather conditions. He made a video to encourage community awareness." Noelle's grip tightened slightly. Sonny stared at the table, listening. Rosa Delgado, Noelle's attorney, rose next. She didn't shout. She didn't theatrically gesture. She spoke like someone placing bricks carefully. Awareness does not require accusation, Rosa said, and concern does not justify misinformation. The facts show Ms. Hart instructed her child to wait in a visible safe turnout while she sought assistance after road closures and a dead phone. The system failed to communicate quickly. Ms. Hart did not fail her child. Judge Whitaker nodded once. We will proceed with evidence. Sheriff Keene took the stand. She laid out the timeline with precision: storm severity, bridge closures, shuttle reroutes, warming station check-in under Noelle's name, and the ER admission record. Then the dashcam footage shared securely shown briefly confirming the turnout and conditions. No sensationalism, no gore, just a winter road and a small safe figure waiting where she was instructed. Judge Whitaker leaned forward slightly. Ms. Hart, she said, voice measured. Did you instruct your child to wait in a visible location while you sought assistance? Noelle stood. Her voice shook at first, then steadied as she looked at Sonny. Yes, Noelle said. I told her to stay where cars could see her. I told her I'd come back. I tried to return as soon as roads reopened. Did you abandon your child? The judge asked plainly. No, Noelle answered, stronger now. Never. Sonny's advocate then rose, holding a short paper. With the court's permission, he said, I will read Sonny Hart's statement, approved by her mother and caseworker. Judge Whitaker nodded. Sonny's hand trembled once. Noelle squeezed gently, grounding her. The advocate read calm and clear, my mom told me to wait where cars can see me. She said she would come back. She always does. I was cold, but I was okay. Then someone stopped, and I wasn't alone. A hush rippled through the room, one of those silences that felt like a collective inhale. Wes Dalton's smile faltered just for a moment. Judge Whitaker set her pen down. Thank you, she said quietly. That is sufficient. Calder realized something then. The courtroom wasn't deciding whether Sonny deserved safety. It was acknowledging she already had it, and the adults were simply catching up to the truth. And now the judge would choose what happened next. A recess was called. Not a dramatic one. No gavel slams. Just the judge stepping out to review documents while the room exhaled in tiny, careful breaths. People stood stretched, whispered. Some glanced at Noelle with curiosity softened into something closer to shame. Noelle sat very still. Her hands were folded in her lap, but her fingers kept moving as if folding invisible corners. Sonny leaned into her side, warm jacket brushing Noelle's arm. I said it right, Sonny whispered. Noelle's eyes filled instantly. You said it perfectly, she replied. You said the truth. Sonny nodded and stared at her boots. I waited, she said quietly, almost to herself. I waited like you said. Calder stood near the back wall, keeping distance, giving the family space. Sheriff Keene walked over, voice low. You're holding up, she said to Noelle, not as praise, but as recognition. Noelle swallowed. I feel like everyone's looking at me like I'm a headline. Keene's expression softened. Then we're going to give them a closing caption, she said. The kind that's true. Across the room, Wes Dalton checked his phone, thumb scrolling. His lawyer leaned close, whispering. He still looked like someone waiting for applause, but the room wasn't offering any. Eli Brooks approached Sonny's advocate, then knelt briefly by Sonny. You can step outside for air if you want, he said. Or stay. Your choice. Sonny shook her head. I'll stay, she said. That word stay hit Calder in a place he didn't have language for. The judge returned. Everyone stood again, then sat. The room quieted as if the walls themselves were listening. Judge Whitaker looked down at her notes, then up at Noelle and Sonny. Her voice was neither cold nor warm. It was precise, lawful, clear. In light of the verified documentation, she said this court finds no basis for allegations of abandonment. Custody remains with Noelle Hart. Protective Services will provide optional support resources due to the severe weather incident and communication breakdown. Noelle's breath caught half a sob, half a laugh she didn't trust enough to release. Sunny squeezed her hand. The judge continued. As for public claims made without verification, this court strongly discourages misinformation that places undue scrutiny on families during emergencies. Parties are reminded that actions taken for awareness do not excuse harm to reputation. Wes Dalton's attorney shifted in her seat. Judge Whitaker's gaze moved briefly to Wes. Mr. Dalton, you are advised to refrain from further commentary that misrepresents this event. Should defamation or interference occur, the appropriate remedies will be pursued. No threats, no drama, just the kind of legal boundary that snapped into place like a seatbelt. Then the judge's voice softened by 1 degree barely, but enough for everyone to feel it. To the child, she said, eyes on Sunny, you did the right thing by staying visible and accepting help. You are not responsible for adult mistakes or delays. You are a child who deserves care. Sunny blinked as if the sentence was bigger than she expected. She nodded slowly, absorbing it like warmth. Court adjourned. The room didn't erupt. It released. Noelle stood, knees shaky. Sunny wrapped her arms around her mother's waist, not tight like fear, but close like belonging. Rosa Delgado touched Noelle's shoulder. You're clear, she said. You're protected. The record reflects the truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited, but Sheriff Keene held up a hand and spoke first. There was a storm, she said evenly. There was a delay. There was also a child who stayed visible, a mother who sought help, and an adult who stopped and did the responsible thing. That is the story. Paige Larkin stood to the side, taking notes, not asking for tears. She caught Calder's eye once, then nodded facts first. Noelle glanced at Calder, uncertainty in her expression, like she didn't know how to thank someone for stopping without making it feel like a debt. Calder shook his head, slightly gentle. No debt, his eyes said. Just a moment. Sunny looked up at Calder, serious as ever. So, reality won, she asked. Calder exhaled the air, visible in the cold. Reality moved, he said, and people finally moved with it. Sunny considered that, then nodded. Okay, she said. Then we keep going. They walked down the courthouse steps together, the snow underfoot, no longer a threat, just weather. But the story wasn't finished, because healing doesn't end when a judge speaks. It begins when a child learns she can put her backpack down and still be safe. Winning the room didn't mean the noise stopped. By the time Noelle and Sunny reached the temporary housing arranged through county services, the sun had already dipped low, turning the snow outside pale blue. The apartment was small but warm, 2 rooms clean, furniture, a kitchen that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and new beginnings. Sunny stepped inside and froze. Is this ours? She asked. For now, Noelle said carefully. Just for a while. Sunny nodded, absorbing the phrase like a contract. For now had become her way of measuring safety. Calder stayed only long enough to help carry a box of essentials. The hospital had packed coats, groceries, a children's book about winter roads. He placed everything on the table, then stepped back. I'll check in tomorrow, he said. Through Eli. Not directly. Noelle understood immediately. Thank you for knowing where to stop, she said. Calder gave a small smile. Stopping's something I'm still learning. After he left, the apartment settled into a new quiet. Noelle unpacked, slowly placing things where Sunny could see them. Predictability mattered. Sunny lined up her boots by the door, then her backpack beside the bed. She didn't put it on. That was new. Later, as Noelle brewed tea, Sunny sat at the table, tracing her finger along the wood grain. The excitement of the day had worn thin, leaving behind a fragile edge. Mom, she said softly. Yes, honey. What if people are still talking? Noelle paused. She didn't rush the answer. Some might, she said honestly. But talking doesn't decide our lives. We do, Sunny nodded, but her eyes drifted to the window. That night, sleep came in pieces. Sunny woke once heart racing, certain she'd missed something. Noelle sat up instantly, arms open. Sunny crawled into them without a word, pressing her cheek against her mother's shoulder. I waited. Sunny whispered, half asleep. Noelle held her tighter. You don't have to wait anymore, she said. I'm here. Outside, the snow fell steadily, tapping at the glass like a reminder that storms didn't end all at once. They faded. Across town, Calder sat alone in his kitchen, the house too quiet again. He stared at the laptop screen where a paused image glowed, Sunny's drawing from earlier, sent by Eli with permission. A road, a red truck, and a green box glowing beside it. Calder closed the laptop slowly. For the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel empty. It felt unfinished. The idea returned the next morning, uninvited and persistent. Calder stood at the edge of Bridger Canyon, boots crunching over packed snow as he surveyed the turnout near mile 18. Traffic had resumed, slow, careful, but the road still carried the memory of silence. Sheriff Mara Keene joined him, hands tucked into her coat pockets. You keep coming back here, she noted. Calder nodded. I keep thinking about the waiting. Keene followed his gaze. Me too. They stood without speaking for a moment. Wind moved through the canyon, not screaming this time, just present. She did exactly what she was told, Calder said finally. And still, it was too much for a kid. Keene exhaled. Winter roads don't forgive misunderstandings. That was when Sunny's drawing came back to him, the green box glowing against white. What if Calder began slowly, there was help before someone had to wait that long? Keene turned. Define help. Emergency aid boxes, Calder said. Before the worst curves, thermal blankets, hand warmers, protein bars, a prepaid phone, clear signage. Keene considered it, professional mind moving fast. County approval, maintenance plan, liability waivers. I'll handle the logistics, Calder replied. I always do. Keene smiled faintly. Of course you do. By afternoon, the idea had momentum. The Winter Road Association agreed to review placements. A local nonprofit offered to help restock supplies. Truckers volunteered to check boxes after storms. When Noelle heard about it later that evening, she sat very still. Sunny, she said carefully. Do you remember that place where you waited? Sunny nodded. What would you put there? Noelle asked if someone else had to wait. Sunny thought for a long time. Blankets, she said, lights, and a note. A note, so they know, Sunny said simply, that waiting isn't forever. Noelle's eyes filled. Do you want to write it? Sunny hesitated, then nodded. They sat at the small kitchen table with a marker and a piece of cardboard. Sunny printed each letter carefully, tongue between her teeth. When she finished, she slid the note across the table. It read, If you're waiting, someone will come. Noelle pressed her hand over her mouth. Across town, Calder received a photo of the note. He stared at it for a long time, chest tight, with something that felt dangerously close to hope. This wasn't charity. It was translation. Turning fear into something other people could use. The sign went up 3 weeks later. Snow dusted the shoulder as a county crew bolted the green metal post into frozen ground just before the canyon's worst curve. The letters reflected the low winter sun. Emergency aid box 1 mile. Sunny stood beside Noelle, bundled in her pink jacket, boots planted firmly. She bounced once on her heels, then stopped herself, as if afraid to disturb the moment. Calder knelt to open the box for the first time. Inside, thermal blankets folded tight, hand warmers stacked neatly, protein bars, bottled water, a flashlight, and a prepaid phone sealed in plastic. He taped Sunny's note to the inside of the lid, smoothing the edges carefully. Noelle brushed a tear from her cheek. It's perfect, she whispered. A car slowed as it passed. The driver honked once, soft, not demanding. Sunny watched it go, eyes wide. They saw it, she said. Yes, Calder replied. And now they know. Later, as dusk settled, they returned to the turnout quietly. The canyon felt different, not empty, not threatening. Watched, held. Sunny walked to the exact place where she'd stood weeks before. She didn't hug herself. She didn't shrink. This is where I waited, she said. Calder stopped a respectful distance away. Yes. Sunny turned in a slow circle, taking in the road, the sign, the glowing green box. But it's not just that anymore, she said. It's also where someone stopped. The words landed gently and stayed. That night, back at the apartment, Sunny prepared for bed. She placed her backpack on the chair instead of the bed. Can I sleep without it? She asked. Noelle smiled through tears. Yes. Sunny climbed under the covers, smaller without the bag lighter too. When Noelle checked on her an hour later, Sunny was asleep deeply, evenly. No waiting. No watching. Just rest. Outside, snow fell softly, no longer a test to survive, just weather doing what weather does. And along Bridger Canyon, a small green box glowed against the dark, quiet proof that stopping once had changed a road forever. The first night without alarms felt unfamiliar. Noelle lay awake for a long time, listening not for danger, but for proof that there was none. The apartment hummed softly, the heater cycling on and off, the faint tick of the clock above the sink, the distant sound of a car passing somewhere beyond the snow. Sunny slept. Not the careful, half-waking sleep she'd learned in the canyon, but the deep kind. The kind where breathing stayed slow, and even where dreams didn't demand vigilance. Noelle stood in the doorway and watched her daughter's chest rise and fall. The backpack rested against the chair untouched, close enough to see, far enough to breathe. In the quiet, Noelle realized something that surprised her. She wasn't bracing anymore. The phone on the nightstand buzzed once, a message from Eli Brooks. Checking in, everything calm, Noelle typed back, "Yes, thank you." Across town, Calder Rowe finished locking his own front door and paused, hand on the knob. Old habits told him to check the cameras again. New ones suggested he didn't need to. He looked out at the snowfall instead. For the first time in years, winter didn't feel like something waiting to take more from him. It felt neutral, honest. Just a season doing what seasons do. The lie online had faded faster than he expected. Paige Larkin's article, quiet, factual, humane, had replaced outrage with something closer to understanding. Apologies appeared where accusations had lived. Silence followed. Sunny woke briefly before dawn and padded into Noelle's room. "Mom," she whispered. "I'm here," Noelle replied instantly. Sunny crawled into bed, small and warm. "I don't hear him anymore," she said. Noelle kissed her hair. "That's because there's nothing to listen for." Sunny nodded, satisfied. Fear had lost its voice. The canyon learned quickly. Within days of the first aid box going up, another appeared, then another. Not identical, but similar enough to feel intentional. A church group offered to restock blankets. A trucking company added the locations to their radio check-ins. Volunteers drove the route after storms, checking seals and batteries. No speeches, no banners, just quiet participation. Sunny watched from the back seat one afternoon, as Noelle drove past the sign again. She didn't flinch this time. She leaned forward, curious. "They're helping," Sunny said. "Yes," Noelle replied. "Because you showed them how." Sunny frowned thoughtfully. "I didn't do anything." Noelle smiled. "You waited. And then you told the truth." They stopped at a grocery store on the edge of town. Inside, a woman recognized Noelle not from the video, but from the article. "I'm glad you're okay," the woman said gently. "Your daughter's very brave." Sunny looked up, serious. "I wasn't brave," she said. "I was just cold." The woman laughed softly, understanding exactly what Sunny meant. Later, Calder met them briefly at a cafe, not as a rescuer, not as a fixture. Just a person passing through. Sunny slid a napkin across the table. On it, she'd drawn a road and a glowing square. For the next box, she said. Calder nodded, taking it like a blueprint. We'll build it. Noelle watched them heartful in a quiet way. Not gratitude that demanded repayment, just recognition that some moments changed the shape of a life. Outside snow melted into slush, then disappeared. Spring would come. Summer after that. But this place, this road would remember what it had learned. How to hold people. Christmas Eve returned without asking permission. No blizzard this time, just snow drifting softly, as if the land itself had learned how to be gentle. They drove out to Bridger Canyon just before sunset. The aid box glowed faintly under its green sign, a small beacon against the white. Calder parked and cut the engine. Sunny climbed out, first boots crunching on packed snow. She stood very still, hands tucked into her pockets, eyes fixed on the stretch of shoulder where everything had changed. "This is where I waited," she said quietly. Calder joined her, stopping an arm's length away. "Yes." Sunny turned slowly, taking in the canyon walls, the curve of the road, the sign. "But it's also where someone stopped," she added. Noelle blinked back tears as Sunny walked to the box and opened it with practiced hands. Everything was there. Warm. Ready. Sunny taped a new note inside, smoothing it carefully. "If you're cold, if you're scared, wait, someone will come." Cars passed, slowing slightly. One driver lifted a hand in a small wave. On the drive home, Sunny dozed in the back seat, head tipped against the window, snowlight flickering across her face. At home, she taped her newest drawing to the refrigerator, a red truck on a white road, a green box glowing like a promise. Calder stood by the window, later watching the snowfall. He'd believed for a long time that stopping only led to pain. He knew better now. Families weren't only the ones you were born into. They were the ones you stayed for when leaving would have been easier. Outside, the road lay quiet and safe, and somewhere in the canyon, a small green box glowed in the dark, proof that kindness once chosen could change a road forever. Did this story move your soul? Share your feelings in the comments and rate it from 1 to 10. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then tap the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Click the end screen to watch another heartfelt video. See you in the next story.